It's kind of funny. So we've got Christmas decorations on the lawn. If you watch videos of mine often enough, and if you see Bear looking out the window growling, she's probably growling at one of those decorations on the lawn that falls over. Since there aren't people around, she's pretty sure it's sentient, and she's pretty sure it's her enemy. And it's honestly been really funny over the last couple of days, because I'll point it out to her, go, hey, look, it's moving, and she's all... So yeah, if you see that in the background, and she just gave me a dirty look because I dropped those blinds as she was watching her enemy to see if it'd move. It's actually quite funny. So here's the news of the day. TJ Brodie returns to practice, and guess what? He's going to be a game time decision for their game against Pittsburgh. So here's to hoping that he is able to play, and all testing appears to be fine. It's one of those things where you just pass out, you can collapse, and there may not be a reason that doctors can find right off the bat. Also, on Flames news yesterday, their first goal of the game yesterday broke a 261-minute and 3-second drought on the road when it came to scoring goals. That's a problem. And you don't want to start a new one, so they got a couple yesterday. They won in a shootout. Calgary needs to get goals, and they need leads. They need to start getting leads. So we'll see if that happens for them. Last night for Tampa, Andrei Vasilevsky got his 132nd win, which means he's the all-time leader now for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Considering the amount of success this team has had, it is surprising that it only takes 132 wins to lead them overall. But if you watched my videos last year on the histories of goaltenders with certain franchises, Tampa Bay, very often they've had goaltenders that'll come in for 3, maybe 4 years, and then they move along. So in the case of Vasilevsky, he is that franchise goaltender that Tampa's never really had. They've drafted, they've cultivated, and now he's good to go. For Detroit fans, if you're looking for a reason to watch games, Philip Zadina's been called up. He had a rough start in the American League and injuries and stuff and whatnot, but he's been playing really well lately, and now he's getting called up for a look. Let's hope he rewards their patience at the NHL level. Now here's an interesting one. Last night reported on Hockey Night in Canada, Elliot Friedman says that Backstrom has been talking directly with the Caps about an extension. He's not using an agent. He's just talking directly with the general manager about an extension. That's fantastic news. That means that Nick Backstrom wants to stay with Washington and wants to figure this out. Now, whether or not they can find a way to do that with Holtby as well, that'll be very telling. I understand that there are people who are going to want Samsonov to be the starter. I understand, but I think that they will try to keep both Holtby and Backstrom. Whether they do or don't, I don't know. But I think for Backstrom, you may be looking at his situation and saying, you know what? I've won a Stanley Cup here. I've scored a lot of points here. Unless I'm going to end up in Edmonton playing with Draisaitl or McDavid, which is unlikely. Unless I'm going to end up in a situation where I'm playing with a big star player somewhere else, odds are my point totals are going to go down, and the odds of me winning probably not going to be as high as if I stay in Washington and keep playing with Ovi. So there you go. We'll see what they do, but I think the fact that he's not using an agent, it's a direct line of conversation between the player and management. That's great news for Capitals fans. Now, not great news if you're a Flyers fan. James Van Riemsdyk last night was on the fourth line, and he got 9 minutes and 6 seconds of ice time. So JVR has been dropping down, and right now it feels like we may be watching JVR, I should say. I keep wanting to say JR, which would be Jeremy Roenick. Jeremy Roenick left the league a long time ago, but he played for the Flyers as well. So JVR, got to remember the V in there, because if you don't, then it's Jeremy Roenick, and people are going to get confused. We do seem to be seeing him just falling off the map. Now, if JVR becomes available on the trade market, if he's not already, I would think somebody somewhere that's goal-starved is going to take a shot at picking him up. I'm thinking he might be a good fit for Calgary, for instance. Just throwing that one out there. But for Van Riemsdyk, I like him a lot. I think he's a good player, but he has definitely been struggling this year. Buffalo, Zach Bogosian's nearing a return. So if they're going to make a move on the blue line, It may happen soon, as their blue line seems to be getting a little bit healthier. And with Bogosian back, something has to happen. Somebody has to go. So we'll see what they do. But for Buffalo, again, remember, they're going to be trading out defense to pick up somebody for their forward group. That Jason Botterill realizes, I need some help with this forward group. And of course, I mentioned this in the review video last night. I'll mention it again here. Robert Bortuzzo is having a hearing today regarding the cross-check on Arvidsson, and whether it's the first or the second or whichever cross-check it is, Arvidsson was knocked out of the game. So keep in mind when they do this suspension, the fact that an injury occurred on the play will have bearing on what they do, how long this suspension is. So it might end up being a longer one because Arvidsson's out. And if Arvidsson's going to be out for a while, that could mean that Bortuzzo's out for a while as well. I would imagine the NHL's been in contact with Nashville about how long they see he'll be out and how serious things might be and various replays and all that other wonderful stuff. So we'll see how long that is, or if they just say, we'll just throw a fine at him. So it's one of those things. Now, I also want to discuss something else. For people who follow Wyshynski on the ESPN, now Greg Wyshynski, I believe, used to be on Yahoo Sports. I believe I used to read his articles. And I was going through his article today, and he talks about some things, but he also talks about increasing offense. You know, I will say this, the NHL will always look for ways to get more goals into the game. But just throwing my 2 cents in there, it feels to me like we have a perfect balance right now, where we have games that might be 2-1. We had that last night, and then we had a game that was 6-5. I think we have a pretty good balance. And he mentions in the article that the scoring is up. And then he says in order to really increase scoring, to get rid of offsides, getting rid of offsides would be just awful. Now, I do think the rule needs to be altered a little bit so these offside replays, which are ridiculous and take too long, so they're completely gone in terms of those obvious ones. Meaning that if you look at a replay and it's obvious the guy's offside, then yeah, the goal's called back. But if you have to slow it down and you're like, the puck seems to be a half a millimeter this way or that way. No. That being said, I think if you got rid of offsides altogether, I think you'd end up with a really horrible game to look at. I actually think it would just be complete and total chaos out there. Now, the other one that he throws out there is 4-on-4 play all the time. That's where the NHL Players Association steps up and goes, no. That would directly cost jobs. We're not doing that. So I can't see those ever being taken up. And not only that, I don't think the game needs any kind of dramatic shift in how it's played. I really don't. I think the game right now is the most exciting it's been, the most skilled that it's been. I know there are some who really like the fighting in the game that would like to see it come back. I don't think it's ever coming back, though. I can't see us ever returning to an era where there were just pure enforcers and the league could play about 4.5 minutes a game and spend about 10 minutes in the penalty box per game. Can't see it. I don't think that's ever going to happen again. But, I do agree with one thing. People will go to a hockey game to watch the goals. And the dead puck era was terrible. And I think sometimes we worry about returning to the dead puck era. It's easier to coach somebody to prevent a goal than it is to coach somebody to score a goal. Talent isn't something you can just create in practice for the most part. You can play to a player's strengths in practice. You can build certain parts of their game. But that pure skill that we see in the game right now, that's not really something you can coach. It's there or it's not. And back in the dead puck era, there were a lot of players in the NHL. Skill wasn't really their thing, but they were big. They could hit. They could hook. They could slash. They could all these things so they could nullify the skill. And during the dead puck era, we had a lot of guys who said the game wasn't fun to play anymore, including most famously Mario Lemieux, who retired and said that was part of the reason why. The game wasn't fun. He was in a lot of chronic pain as well, but the game just wasn't fun for him anymore. He couldn't go out there and score the way that he did before, and it wasn't that he didn't have the skill. It was that there was hooking and slashing and holding on a level that was just absolutely ridiculous. I can't see that ever coming back either, not in this day of an age of social media and highlights being shown 24/7 everywhere. I can't see it. That being said, I think we're in a good spot where I think there's 6.24 goals per game right now in the NHL, which is the highest it's been since 05-06. Good. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.